guys have about 45 more seconds. Evan, where's your warm-up sheet? Okay, can you write this on a piece of paper then? They're here because they think you're awesome. Okay, is there any... Sam?
I said one person who inspires me is my mom. She inspires me because she's been through a lot in her life, and she raised 7 kids. She works and she leads my Girl Scout troop. All in all, she's just a wonderful inspiration.
That's great. So your mom inspires you because she works hard to give you what you need and what you want. That's awesome. Anyone else? Anyone pick a celebrity? Gabe, do you want to share?
No.
No? Come on, Gabe.
Share.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you for those of you that shared. I'm sure a lot of us have also thought of other people that inspire us and the reasons why they inspire us as well. Okay? Are those reasons important? Yeah? Yeah, they are. Today, we are actually moving into our new unit, which is a biographical profile unit. Okay? And in a biographical profile, an author chooses to write about one person. Okay? And today what we're going to do is we are going to analyze some of our mentor texts, some of these biographical profiles that other authors have written, and we are going to determine why they wrote about those people. Okay? What about these people stood out to them? Okay? And why do we write biographical profiles about people? Okay? So what I want to do first is to help you guys see how we can point out those things and determine the importance of the person and why why this author chose to write about this person. I'm going to read the story with you guys, Brown. So if you'll all get the story from the middle of your table. It's green. Let me know if there's not enough. You need another one? Or plumbing. Although he must have been very frightened sometimes, James Brown says the experience gave him the ability to fall back on myself. He was 5 when he received his first musical instrument, a harmonica. That same year, his father took him to live in Augusta, Georgia with a great aunt. Although James continued to see his father, he never lived with him again. His aunt's house was a place where people came to gamble and buy moonshine whiskey. Living with her wasn't much better than living in the country and being left alone. Although James said he was better at baseball and boxing than singing, hearing gospel music at church had a big impact on him. He liked the singing and hand clapping, and especially the preacher, who James said really had a lot of fire, just screaming and yelling and stomping his foot and dropping to his knees. A lot of what James Brown does on stage he learned from what he saw in a church as a little boy. James Brown was also influenced by the records of Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, and Louis Jordan. He learned to play organ, drums, piano, and guitar by hanging around people who played these instruments. When James was 11, he won a talent show at a local theater. I sang loud and strong and soulful, and the people felt it, he said later. He liked the traveling shows that came through town, particularly Silas Green from New Orleans, which he said presented a complete varied program with singers, dancers, musicians, and comics. That's what I tried to do 15 years later when I put together the James Brown Review. Because he was poor, James was often sent home from school because he was poorly dressed. He said he started stealing to have some decent clothes. When he was 15, he was caught stealing a battery from a car and sent to prison for 8 to 16 years. While in prison, he started a gospel quartet. The group was so good that prison guards would take them to sing at hospitals. James says, the prison warden, Walter Matthews, treated me like a son. Really, he's the person who raised me. Didn't nobody do it when I was at home, that's for sure. When he was 19, James wrote to the parole board and asked to be released. I know I don't have any education, he wrote, but I can sing and I want to get out and sing for the Lord. The parole board agreed to let him out, but said he had to have a job and that he couldn't go home to Augusta. How could he get a job if he was still in prison, he wondered. A few days later, he was loading rocks into a truck. A man driving by noticed him and stopped his car to watch. Finally, he went to the fence and asked James, "Boy, what would it take to get you out of prison?" James said all he needed was a job. The man owned a car dealership and told the warden he would give James a job. James was freed that day. Soon after his release from prison, James formed a group called the Flames, who made their first record in 1956. Since then, James Brown has had more records in the top 40 than any other singer. Although he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1986 as one of the group that included Ray Charles and Little Richard, James Brown does not consider himself a rock and roll or blues singer. In fact, he says he doesn't like the blues, even though you can hear the roots of the blues in his music. James' music is different from anybody else's. Every musician has a sound that is uniquely his or hers. All the instruments of Muddy Waters Band blended together to sound like one instrument. B.B. King plays short, stabbing phrases on one string of his guitar, and Billie Holiday paid attention to every word of a song, and sometimes even the syllables in certain words. That sounds like poetry. Ray Charles is a master of melody. In James Brown's music, it's the crisp, percussive rhythms his band plays that put the smile in your heart. But instead of using just the drums and bass to play rhythms, James uses his entire band. But to really appreciate James, you have to see him, because he does as much dancing as singing. Nobody can dance the way he does. His legs move so fast, they look like a blur. James Brown puts his entire body and soul into his performances and can lose 7 to 10 pounds a night just because he sings and dances so hard. James has a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award and was in the first Blues Brothers movie. There are few entertainers as popular or respected among black people as James Brown. Songs like Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, and America is My Home deliver very clear messages. Because of his popularity, he sees himself as a spokesman for peace and racial harmony, as well as an entertainer. The love that James Brown communicates through his dancing and singing, he also wants people to give to one another. And he uses music to get that message across. Okay, so as I was reading, I noticed a few things that really stood out and seemed important in this text. Did you guys see anything that stood out to you about this person?